Committee, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present the department's funding request for the next biennium. We have provided you with an overview presentation for your reference. The Texas Department of Motor Vehicles powers mobility across the state, registering 26 million vehicles, credentialing motor carriers, investigating consumer complaints, and permitting the movement of goods. We do this in direct partnership with our county tax assessor collector partners and with participation from more than 20,000 licensed motor vehicle dealers that help support the state's thriving economy. These programs collectively result in $4.5 billion in biennial revenue collections for the state. The majority of collections are deposited into the State Highway Fund, and the remainder is allocated between the General Revenue Fund and the TXDMV Operating Fund. We greatly appreciate the funding already provided in Senate Bill 1 as introduced. In addition to those amounts, we are requesting two exceptional items listed on page 6 of your presentation.
Could you move your mic a little bit closer, please?
Yes, sir. How's that?
Better.
Better. Very good. Thank you. These items will allow us to continue supporting improvements in the department's customer service, operational efficiencies, and data security. Our first exceptional item, described on page 7 through 11 of your handout, is $175 million to continue the extensive process of modernizing the department's Legacy Registration Entitling System, or RTS. RTS is the primary system and the backbone of the TXDMV operations, integrating directly with numerous stakeholders, including tax offices, vehicle dealers, all to support both government and business functions and offer direct service to motor vehicle customers across the state. The system now is over 30 years old, and we recognize that it no longer serves the public the way our stakeholders expect. The system creates inefficiencies that contribute to work backlogs and extend the time it takes to complete customer transactions. The department is not also able to respond efficiently to new legislative changes, identified emergency security threats, or implement opportunities offered by new technologies. Last session, the department was appropriated $6.8 million to conduct a series of internal and external assessments to identify system needs available and market solutions to replace the system. The results of these assessments were used to define the request for the current exceptional item. Unlike the incremental work of the last several decades at the department, RTS modernization will fully replace the core system and applications with current technology and platforms. Engineering the system for certainly maximum usability, operability, and future adaptability will provide a stable business process platform to improve the department's ability to respond to stakeholder needs and manage costs to the state. Chairman, members, our second exceptional item on page 12 is a request for $6.8 million and 50 new employees to improve core services and customer service support. The new employees to improve core services will address high workload volumes and continue improvements to data security, fraud mitigation efforts, high workload volumes. The specific program areas that requests are intended for are Customer Contact Center, our Enforcement and Compliance Division, cybersecurity efforts, dealer licensing programs, and certainly our regional service centers throughout the state of Texas. Chairman, members, this concludes my prepared remarks. I certainly appreciate your consideration of the department's 26-27 funding needs. We're certainly available to answer any questions you may have.
Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to have you. You're new to the group.
This is my second time testifying as executive director.
Well,
yes,
that's
sir.
not your first rodeo. We had a lot of first rodeos this year. Specifically, and I understand the FTE now, and you're talking dealer licenses. I have a lot of auto dealers that are frustrated, and I'm told 5 to 6 months behind in getting their dealer set up or renewal applications. Is that a fact, or is that anecdotal, or is there a backlog there?
Senator Perry, that is a fact. There is a backlog, and we are working diligently through our licensing section to address that backlog.
How many FTEs do you have currently assigned to dealer licenses?
Total FTEs, 50.
50, and how many dealer licenses you run through on an annual basis? You have any idea? Annual basis of dealer licenses. I mean, are you talking 10,000 licenses come through there for dealer setup, probably?
About 14,000, sir.
14,000.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's truly a frustration coming through, and I sympathize with the department. Maybe the technology is part of the conversation, I just ask that you kind of refocus a little bit if you can to just get the back all caught up.
Absolutely.
Because those guys can't operate, right?
That's
You're literally
correct, sir.
telling a guy that possibly has capital in place, a frontage that you can't operate, and the overhead, a cost of maintaining an operation that you can't generate revenues from for 4 or 5 or 6 months begins to add up, especially for the small big guys. So
Yes, sir.
that secondly, and it's not a conversation, and I think Senator Nichols would be more appropriate, and if he's going to ask it, I don't know, regarding the metal plate transfer, you're going to have that. I'm going to let him deal with that. I'm just told same groups are saying they're not against it, but it's not smooth and it's creating some concern. So I'm going to leave it with that, and maybe Senator Nichols, I knew my
working on a
Jeff
better way.
Chairman. There you
Yes, sir.
Senator Nichols.
Oh, I'm used to so many buttons being pushed. Thanks. Two things. One, I'd also been getting word here recently about the dealer license backlog. They're back to September. Is it taking 6 months, 3 months, 5 months?
It really depends on the type of application.
Is that part of what your 50 FTEs is for?
Part of the exceptional item request is for new employees or new FTEs for the dealer licensing program. Yes, sir.
Okay. On the computer system, the big IT, do you think you can actually get that implemented? I saw that timeline in a 2-year period.
So the actual timeline, Chairman, for the implementation of what we would call new RTS is up to 6 years. It really depends on the solution the department selects or decides to go with.
Okay, so you think are we going to take it in phases? I know the Railroad Commission took it in 4 or 5 phases.
Yes. So in my opening remarks, the $6.8 million that was appropriated last session was used for phase 1 of RTS modernization. That's where we did our internal and external modernization. The request that we have right now on the table is to fully replace the system going forward now. And again, that timeframe is
And that dollar request is,
$175 million, sir.
okay. And so do we, and that 175 will take how many years?
Up to 6 years.
6 years?
Yes, sir.
So do we need to get the full funding in the next 2 years, or do you need to get a commitment for the whole thing and the funding for 2 years?
A commitment for the whole amount would be ideal, sir.
How much funding do you need for the next 2 years?
So, well, for the entire project, we're estimating $175 million.
How much?
$175 million for the
I
entire
wrote that
project.
down.
Yes, sir.
So the commitment for actual expenditures in the next 2-year budget cycle's how much?
In the next 2-year budget cycle, we're looking at $125 million, sir.
That's a lot. Yeah, so it sounds like you're gonna, a lot of stuff the first 2 years and then kind of coast into it the next 4 years?
That's correct, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'd just say we need to find their IT group because nobody moves that fast for any of the other agencies.
Right. So let me clarify. What we're asking for is a commitment of $125 million for the first 2 years. The total amount of the project is $175 million.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Next is on the, the license plates that Senator Perry was talking about. We made the commitment and we passed legislation for which they were rocking along to implement that, and nobody's changing that. That implementation was to occur. We purposely left it to go into effect after this legislative session in case we ran across something that needed any legislative changes, which is frustrating sometimes, but it's also a wise step because it affects so many people. And we did the dealers, both used dealers, new dealers, all the dealers basically did request not a reversal, but a 20-degree, I call it 20-degree angle. Okay. And that angle is what we said, what we've been current practice is throwing every license plate away and starting fresh, every single purchase. And last session we said, and the bill we passed said, okay, we're going to keep all the plates. And the plate will stay with the vehicle.
There you go. The owner or the vehicle?
Vehicle, that's what we passed.
All right.
And that's where the problem came in for the dealers. Mm-hmm. So the dealers now have decided we're going to really do this thing. So instead of just fighting, getting rid of temp tags, they're focused on something that would help them. And that is either way, and does the tag stay with the person or does the tag stay with the vehicle? What they're requesting is that it stay with the person. And that way, when you buy whether it be a new car or a used car, when you buy the car, you take your old plates off and you put it on the vehicle you just purchased. And that way, their system, which they confirm we can make it work, will have the identity of the plate with the person, and then they'll be changing the vehicle.
I knew you'd have the answer.
Well, it's the same number of plates either way. Law enforcement, it's the same either way because they look at that tag and then they look at all the data attached to the tag. The big difference, and I agree with the dealers on this, is that all of a sudden that metal plate becomes much more valuable. And if they've got 100 vehicles sitting out in the parking lot overnight, somebody's going to steal them. So part of the rules would be you have to take them off the car and the dealer has to store them in a safe place. And these huge dealers will have thousands of plates, 1,000 plates, maybe 2,000 plates, and a huge inventory. And every time they buy a car, trade in a car, you got to shuffle in and out of a library of plates, which is a real hassle. And so if we change it to it stays with the person, then they're not constantly having to do that. There will be exceptions when somebody from out of state comes in. We don't want Oklahoma tags running around Texas. Not picking on Oklahoma, or a new buyer, things like that. And then, and that's, so I told them we would go that direction. And so I'll be carrying the bill. We'll try to get it into transportation and to the Senate as quickly as we can. We don't have a House sponsor yet, but we'll find out where the committees are going here shortly. And then it'll save them a lot of work. But the bill has to pass this session, what I've told the dealers. If it does not pass, well, then we're going the old system because it's set for July 1st conversion, and that's the commitment they made, and that's the direction we've got. So we've got to pass both chambers, a priority. And I think everybody will agree on it. I don't see a real problem. They've run their system now. Will delay implementation because of the rules changes and things like that. I don't know, 6 months or something like that.
Yes, sir, about 6 months. That's
Okay.
for communication, for programming.
All right. So did I fairly well explain everything the way, I keep
Absolutely.
seeing nodding in the back, but I'm looking at you.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, sir.
I had one more question, and that is, you do have a customer service center. When people call, do you answer all the calls?
We do have an abandoned call rate, but we do try our best to answer all the calls. Our call rate, our answering is within 3 to 5 minutes.
Really? How many of them drop out because they get tired of waiting?
We have about a 13% abandoned rate.
13%. Okay. 5 minutes, typical?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've already talked to you about driver's license, so we'll just skip on that one. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there are no more questions. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Department of Transportation. LBB presentation, Tomas Calvan.
Once again, Tom.